the community aspects. Oh, here we go. And we're live. We're back. The Hemp Revolution Conference, part of Live Hope Festival. We got Rico the Mitt here out of LA. My name is Stephen Cutter with Hemp for the Future. We're going to be talking about three main topics. We're going to be talking about community and collaboration as part of how the hemp space can expand, social equity, and a little bit about Rico's work. I met Rico about 2 years ago in LA at a Canna Gather event, and luckily enough, he's actually from Northwestern. I went to school at Northwestern, where I was from, Chicago. So him and I have been friends and colleagues ever since. And Rico's doing some great work for the cannabis space on many fronts. And yeah, Rico, I'd love for you to dive into some of your background in the cannabis space and how you got started, and what Cannavision is about.
Yeah, man. Actually have a presentation. You want me to share my screen here? Just do a little bit of my background here. And
Sure. Yeah, great.
It's only a couple of slides here. Here we go. Boom. Let me know you can see it there.
I'm here. Yep, I see it.
You see it? Cool. All right. And boom. All right, so a little more on my background. You see the Northwestern NCAT out there. I try to show Northwestern love, Chicago love whenever I can as well. That's really what made me as a man, as a collaborative entity. And that was really the first time I fell in love with cannabis. I know hemp, marijuana, cannabis, all the same plant. And that's really where I cut my teeth, not only as finding my own, my own shoes to step into in the rest of the world. And I've been carrying that collaborative effort forward ever since. So being from Virginia originally, I was a military kid, lived in Germany for a little bit, and then back to Virginia. I just kind of stuck to myself before that. Black people were my only friends, and I had a lot of white friends on the football field, on the basketball court, but that was pretty much it. Went to college, and in the downtime a lot, we partook, if you will, and that's when I really started to tear down my social barriers, and that's when I first had my first couple of white friends, brown friends, Asian friends, and I even had my first couple of gay friends because of that. And something was just telling me that every time I came around the plant, it was positivity. And I was able to maintain those relationships from college into the working world. And you see a little bit of my journey there. It's all about collaboration. And to this day, I can still go back to my college friends. I can still go back to everywhere that I worked in Chicago, from marketing. And then I was in corporate finance for 10 years, all the way up to today, when I built Cannavision with the same tenets, right? The importance of collaboration, I would say, number one, from Baker Technologies, is a company that I helped take public into Tilt Holdings back in, I started that journey in 2016. And it was a crazy journey because I left college football with an opioid habit. Got hurt training for the NFL, and I was on the streets of Chicago selling weed to get by, homeless for a little bit. And I lucked out, went into a mobile marketing firm, and I traveled all around the country with pop stars. And awesome job. My mom hated it. I absolutely loved it. And I found out how much my best friend Greg was making in corporate finance. He took me into corporate finance under his wing. And I was there for 10 years, hated every second of it, made a lot of money. And then I quit when I had a tumor in my throat. And luckily it was benign, but I got into the cannabis industry. About 7 years into corporate finance, I became an evangelist for cannabis when it helped me break my own addiction to opioids. Nothing else really worked. And when I had the tumor and it was benign, I ended up jumping headfirst into the cannabis industry, and I took my first company public too. So there's three things that I always go by: culture, health, and wealth. Stick by those three tenets to this day when it comes to Cannavision too. Lifestyle, medical, and business. Three things that we always need to move forward. These are a couple of the opportunities that have come my way, culminating those collaborative relationships over the years. Ebony Juneteenth was a huge one. I had 53 speakers from 6 countries this past year for that project. And then I had my first TED Talk while I was speaking. The first one, I've been involved with 2 TED projects. One was I was an MC. The second one, I was actually speaking. And I told my full story. You guys can check that out on YouTube. Is The Man Behind the Mask, 3 times the cannabis saved my life. These are some of the other projects that I had rolling right before the pandemic. Candid Boss Talk, where we did live interviews with some of the biggest names in the cannabis industry. Dope Dads, that's me and my homeboy Jared. Actually pulled in Salvador Santana, Carlos Santana's son, in there. He's in there with us now as well. And Coffee Pot, it's a collaborative effort with Superbad Inc., a large cannabis company. And then the pandemic came, wiped everything out, didn't know what to do, and switched over to the digital lane. That's where we are now, man. So it's awesome. And I was able to do this through data. I wasn't really slowing down at all. I was doing everything face to face. I was collecting a lot of data, but I didn't really utilize it. And I wasn't really able to utilize that and execute on it and take a step back and look at how things were working in the cannabis industry until the pandemic. So it has been good for me and on the business end of things. And it's allowed me to cooperate and collaborate with people all over the world. This is what was being left on the table going into the pandemic. So $52.5 billion, that's the US demand for cannabis that was going into the pandemic. 55 million current users and consumers. This is on the CBD side too. Well, that was recorded at least in the US. And we had $4.3 billion last year. And this is in all of the legal recorded events that were going on in the cannabis industry. And all of that just wide open. There's a huge opportunity available. And nobody was really taking advantage of it. So this is what I did. Where Steven and I, where we first met, Canna Gather, I took it into the digital realm. My partner, Josh, at the time, he and I came to an agreement where he was going to try to raise money through PPE sales, and I was going to carry the company on my back. And it was a great 90-day experiment for myself because I got to see exactly where the money was coming from. I got to see who was engaged and who was not engaged. And I was able to create some numbers from that too. All right. So along the way, I also, because I'm always hustling, try to do stuff on the side. I created my own branding services company where I was doing product placement because I was live all the time online. And I had a lot of companies that were paying me monthly just to have stuff behind my head when I was live broadcasting. And then now this is Cannavision. So we had a soft launch last month at the end of October. And it's a decentralized broadcast network. And we have a hub and spoke strategy here in Los Angeles is our first hub. And we do all of our broadcasting here, live streaming here from the studio. I'm in Infused Digital in Los Alamitos, right out of LA. And the spokes are emerging markets. There's 3 things that we always look at: collaborative community building, incentivized integration, and data-driven dominance. So collaborative community building, we try to work with absolutely everybody. Doesn't matter how big of a company, how small of a company it is. Cannabis, hemp, On the medical side, doesn't matter. We try to bring everybody together to push the industry forward. We use incentivized integration. We plug people in. Doesn't matter what end of the industry you're in. We plug people in, and we incentivize people for doing that, whether that's through revenue share agreements, whether that's through just sponsorships. We try to get as many companies and their names out there as possible, using our network's reach. And my business partner, my close friend, my mentor, Fred Smith, he always says, "Bring the data, not the drama." And everything we do is driven by data. So if it's not data telling us this is the direction that we need to be going, we just pretty much ignore it. So that's just an abbreviated version of where I came from, where I am today. It's always community over competition. Not only is it more fruitful in the end, but it just feels good, man. It feels good to actually work with people. I tell everybody we are in a monumental seismic shift in the universe right now. And the best thing to do is leave your competition behind and not just surpassing them. Now is not the time to really to compete. Now is the time to collaborate. So a lot of people who are bringing a lot of that drama, a lot of people who are looking to, oh yeah, I'm gonna stomp this guy out, stomp that guy out. Nah, it's not time for that. That's not what the plant is about. It's a communal plant through and through. It brings people together. And now is the time to work with each other and build. And we've built something awesome that nobody else is doing. And I'm damn proud of it, man. I'm just happy to be here and happy to work with people like you out in Puerto Rico and come on as a partner and learn more about what's going on the ground, because our whole mantra and everything that drives us is big media. Big media doesn't really care about the small stories, doesn't really care about the little people in the industry. I say little people, I just mean the individual business owners. We do. The cannabis community does. The hemp community does. The medical community does. And the business people do as well. Our job is to bring them together, tell their stories, whether it's the right or the left, doesn't matter to us as long as they're vetted. And we broadcast them from a central place so you can get more well-rounded experiences through and through. And the people you see there behind me in that picture, that little picture collage that we made over there, that's my team. They're all over the U.S. Right now. We have a couple of affiliates outside of the U.S. Waiting. They're on standby for us, waiting for us to expand. But we have Newark, New Jersey, Boston, Massachusetts, New Haven, Connecticut, Pontiac, Michigan, Washington, D.C., Bethesda, Maryland, and who am I missing? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, we have Michigan out there, and in Los Angeles, of course. So we're expanding. We're going to have 6 hubs by the end of the year, and we just want to hear the stories directly from the community itself, see what's going on the ground, because a lot of people really are waiting for the big stories to pop. We want to hear the other side of those stories, hear directly from the community, because that's what really matters. And that's who we are, brother. Coming back on with me, man. One thing I can say is hemp and medical are one of the biggest data points that we were able to garner from Cannagather Digital was whenever we did a show on hemp, industrial hemp, or medical cannabis, we had people tuning in from all over the world. We had at one point we had like 7 people from Ireland, 18 from Jamaica, 3 from China, and we had like a bunch of folks from overseas. We had no idea how they found us, and it was all because of the plant. They came together because of the plant, because of the opportunity, and I really just felt in my heart, I felt that vibration coming for me. That I need to build something connecting these people. And that's what we did. I don't know if you're coming back on screen with me, man. If you're not, I can keep on going. So without We get a lot of hot tips from all over the place. There you are. Yeah, we get a lot of hot tips from all over the place, and we really, really love to hear everybody's stories, everybody's issues, because they're so different. Everybody looks at California like it should be the barometer of success, and even though California was first, we're very different than everybody else. The different climate, politically, physically, and just like there is in Puerto Rico, very, very different. And that's the beauty and the challenge that is the United States of America. And then you can imagine that just being a microcosm of the global community. I think it's really important that we connect the dots from a bottom up perspective to keep people connected, so you know what is what and what isn't. Because big media, I love big media because they give us the great ideas. But big media sticks to what the big money makers are. When we go for the whole collective community, because we get a greater data set, number one. Number two, it helps absolutely everybody. You being in Puerto Rico, you know exactly what the climate is down here in LA, and vice versa. When there's investors, when there are people developing products, and when there are people just looking to capitalize off of the community, the lifestyle side of the industry, it helps. Like me being able to see the sunshine right now, and me knowing that it was cloudy last week when we were speaking, that helps as well. Not just conversationally, but I know exactly if I'm doing business in Puerto Rico and I see there's torrential downfall like there is right now in Miami, I know there's opportunity, and I know that there is just good information for you to have if you're traveling, if you have product in transit, like through and through along the entire supply chain.
Yeah, thanks for all that. And I did cut out for a minute, but I heard most of it. I really do like the community first approach that you guys have, getting the stories out on the ground of the people doing the work, not just the big stories that people want to hear. So the network of that you're building around this, I think is very powerful to everyone on the ground doing the work. And I truly appreciate all that you're doing and including me involved with it. So thank you on that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is some of your work on the social justice components of the cannabis space, and how this plant has jailed a lot of people over the years, and
Right.
Now Wall Street, who were the people that were jailing people, are now trying to come in and capitalize on it.
Yeah. So the war on drugs, we can talk about that. It has been going on since the 1920s. Henry Alsinger, it goes all the way back to him, then J. Edgar Hoover, then Richard Nixon, then it was Ronnie Reagan. After that, Bill Clinton. It knows no bounds when it comes to political parties. But the one big thing that I guess created exponential issues with the war on drugs was Richard Nixon taking it into the racial zone. And Nixon tapes corroborated that. And communities of color, unfortunately, were easy scapegoats for a lot of stuff that's going on with the government behind the scenes. And we bore the brunt of a lot of the negativity from it. So the positive that came from that is the idea of social equity. One of my mentors in the space, Virgil Grant, he helped write the first social equity bill back when he was behind bars, actually, in California. And he was a African-American, he is a African-American pre-ICO owner. And those guys go back to 2008 here in the cannabis community in Los Angeles. And he was one of 10 licensed operators that was raided by the DEA back in 2010. But he was the only one that did prison time. He did 6 years, one for every licensed dispensary that he owned. He helped write the social equity law from behind bars. And the idea was to help right the wrongs of the war on drugs. Now that we had the data at our fingertips, knowing that it was a disproportionately levied hit on Black and brown communities, how do we go forward with that information? And so the idea was through social equity. A lot of the comeuppance of a lot of these big multi-billion-dollar firms that were coming into the industry and legally operating, a lot of the profit, the wealth generated from that is supposed to go back to the communities. Unfortunately, 3 years in now, it is shown to be more of a failed experiment, and just communities can't get it right. And I think a lot of the issues there can be solved through platforms just like we built with Canavision. The problem is Los Angeles is not the second largest city in the US next to New York. Los Angeles is 88 cities smashed together. So you have different laws and different municipalities throughout the city, throughout the state, and everybody wants to do things their own way, and they don't know exactly what's going on. They don't really care what's going on in the next community. They want to make sure that they secure their piece of the pie. The problem with that is there's not enough money to go around for absolutely everybody. So we have to collaborate to go forward, or we're just all going to get wiped out. And I really believe that using data, using a common ground there and data-driven initiatives, you're going to find out what matters to everybody. And you can go forward on those tenets rather than having it just, okay, my community needs this, my community needs that, my community needs that, and cut out everything else. It just doesn't work that way in a democratic society, in a capitalist democratic society. And at the end of the day, they're not going to release a lot of funding to help these communities or to give back or give ownership into these businesses if we're all over the place with what we want. So hopefully through data-driven initiatives, we can help bridge that gap.
Well, one of the things I think needs to be put in place as far as policy around some of these war on drugs. So there's a lot of people still in jail for selling marijuana, where now it's legal for it to be recreational, which I feel that if you went to jail for selling, I mean, if you're selling 50 or 100 or 1,000 pounds of whatever, truckloads of marijuana, that might be a little bit different. But if you went to jail for selling a dime bag, an ounce of weed, and some people are in jail for 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, they created the 3-strike policy as part of the war on drugs, where it doesn't matter what the offense was, what size it was, the third time you're going to jail for like life. And so I feel as one of the things we should come together as far as policy around the war on drugs is everyone that's in jail over weed over the years. I think especially if it becomes legal in their state, right? Mm-hmm. They should automatically be released as long as they don't have any other nonviolent crimes or expenditures. So, what are your feelings on the people that are still in jail for small crimes like marijuana charges in legal states?
I think they should be freed, 100%. And I got into a debate on this recently, and I always welcome debate. I love hearing other people's point of view. I don't care how diametrically opposed to mine that it is. If we're bringing data to the conversation, we're bringing actually facts to the conversation, I'm always down for that. And I got into this debate recently about like, oh yeah, you can't just release all of these people in society. And my counter to that is, why not? You just put them in, you threw them into a cage, like out of nowhere, giving people medicine. And even when it was the non-cannabis drugs, they put them away. We have data, we have actual hard facts telling us that you pumped these drugs into these communities. Why would you not release these people immediately? They are, in fact, prisoners of war. And in order to effectively end the war on drugs, so they labeled it, you got to release the prisoners. You got a bunch of POWs out there. They release the prisoners, let them back into their communities, and they need to figure it out. The people who put them in prison need to figure it out. And I just don't understand when people have the authority to punish people for one law, but now you're making money off of it. You're raking in tax dollars from it, and you still have people locked away from their families for doing the same exact thing that multi-billion-dollar companies and corporations are doing presently.
Yeah, the hubris of it all. And when you look at how much money is spent on jailing and policing marijuana, when it could be a tax benefit to the states, it's a complete shift, you know. And I mean, we could go into the private prisons, you know, even helping institute policy. Some private prisons wouldn't go and install a prison into states unless the state would guarantee X amount of capacity, a vacancy. So if they couldn't fill the prisons, they would just write harsher laws to keep people in jail longer. And disproportionately, people of color have been jailed far more, even though the studies show that the Caucasians use cannabis or are in the industry, even the underground industry, far more than people of color. And it's almost like a backwards system that we've lived in. And you mentioned the word democracy, and I think that was kind of funny that because we don't live in a democracy right now.
No, we don't live in a democracy.
No, no. Harvard just did a study on our so-called democracy, and it turns out we have an oligarchy where the policymakers are making laws based on their donors, which that gets into campaign finance reform, ending of Citizens United, and that's a whole nother our whole topic. But we don't have a democracy anymore. And you know, I was on earlier with Tracy Ryan with Weed the People. And,
she's a good friend of mine.
Nice. And this plant is a unifying plant. It does bring community together. It's a healing plant, and I know what a big part of your work is using this plant as a platform to connect people, to collaborate, to build community, to expand this forward. And I have about 2 minutes left. I'm going to ask you a question. So part of today's goal is to create blueprints for how these practices can get into society faster. And so 2 questions. How do you see everyday people that can get involved into the space, can take action? And how do you feel is the quickest route, the industry as a whole, to start catching on?
Yeah, number one, how normal everyday people can get involved. 95%, I would say even more than that now, but I know for a fact 95% of what's available in mainstream America, in mainstream globally, is available as an occupation in the cannabis industry. Look around us, like Rome is crumbling, Rome is falling. Was it Mobil? The oil company just got delisted after 92 years of being on stock exchanges. And you know what's at just the tip of the iceberg? The cannabis industry, period. And I say cannabis industry in its totality because you have marijuana, you have industrial hemp, you have like all of these things going forward. And it doesn't matter if you're in finance, accounting, if you are a builder, you don't even touch the plant, or you are a heavy lifestyle user. There's opportunity across the board. Doesn't matter what you do, even in law enforcement. So hop in. Cannavision is an excellent source for that because we touch all 3 faces of the industry and we connect the dots with that, and we help people stay connected and build their networks. And what was the second question there?
The industry as a whole, what do you think are some of the keys to expanding?
Oh yeah, the keys to expanding in the cannabis industry as a whole. Well, two things. Like I said earlier, the two biggest money makers long term are industrial hemp and medical marijuana. Period. Um, I love the culture side. I love the lifestyle side. But the fact is, United States, Jamaica, and Amsterdam, those are the places that we care about cannabis culture. There's places that we care about the lifestyle. Lifestyle side of the industry needs to go forward. I believe that wholeheartedly because our biggest export as Americans is culture. Period. People love American culture. And but the rest of the world's going forward. December 5th, United Nations, World Health Organization are voting to decriminalize cannabis globally. And when that happens, you know what's making money? Industrial hemp. Everything around us can be built by industrial hemp. You know what's going forward? Medical cannabis. Why? Because people respect science outside of oligarchies when they tell you right is left and left is right. The sky is purple. And the science tells us that this heals people, this shrinks tumors, it cures diseases. I know we can't legally say that like in a federally illegal space until the government says it first. But the government also has 17 patents from was it like 1998, and we can talk about that too. So they know how to connect that. And people just need to make sure that they have a well-rounded view of everything. They're not only looking at the big headlines, but they're connecting with the people on the ground that have been doing this for generations. And they're getting their point of view too, so they can make their own mind up. The future is green, brother.
Love it. Love it, man. I did not know that the government had 17 patents on
Oh yeah, I'll send you the links.
And yeah, that is great news on cannabis. Is it cannabis or hemp being descheduled on the UN level?
I think it's cannabis overall. United
Nice.
Nations, and I'll send you that link too. United Nations and World Health Organization. This is one of the reasons why Cannavision exists, because stuff like that is being drowned out of the conversation. And we're so worried about, Donald Trump is sending all these racist tweets. Who cares? The world cares about economy. How are we going to be moving forward? How are the wheels of the global economy going to keep on turning? And it seems like the entire machine is going to be built off of hemp.
I'm with you, man. I've been drinking that Kool-Aid for a while, and
It's
I'm
good,
ready
man.
for it to exist.
It's tasty,
And,
right?
It is. It can be made with hemp syrup rather than corn syrup.
Ooh, yeah. Low fructose hemp syrup.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's supposed to be high fructose because, high whatever.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
You're dad too. I dig the dad jokes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. High fructose hemp syrup. There you
Get high
go.
fructose.
There you go. You can have a pop line with hemp. Anyways, well, Rico,
100%.
I got my next coming online. It was great
Love you, brother.
speaking with you again. Keep up the great work. Much love. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good, brother.
Peace.
One love. All right.
Great. I'm still here. It's been a day, hasn't it? Our next guests are a little late. Their names are Darian and Chris. They're with the Basic Human Need Network, looking on creating basic human need products out of hemp and establishing local production, which is, if you've been following today, a big topic of how do we get these local products manufactured when there's no manufacturing set up. But give me 1 second. I'm going to make sure they have the login info. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. We should have our guests momentarily. They are linking in. Give me a second. Um, been a great day. I think what it's shown me even more is that hemp can touch the lives of so many different people, um, in so many positive ways, from curing cancer to connecting communities, regenerating the soil, making local products that help. It's a complete food, and it can replace most of the extractive forces that there is out there. And that's what drew me to the plant about 9 years ago, and been on it ever since. So, like Rico was saying, like Rico was saying, that everything in the future's a lot of it's going to be made from hemp. You know, from our carpets to our housing to our clothing to our hats, glasses, batteries, everything in between. This I don't think it could have came at a better time for humanity, and very humbled from all the amazing speakers that have been pioneering the work of getting this plant in the limelight. So everyone that joined today, I'd like to say thank you, and it's been a pleasure working with you guys. It looks like our guests are gonna be maybe not able to make it. So we have I'm gonna go ahead and I think sign off until our next guest. Our next guest is Bruce. Oh, there we go. Hey, Chris is here.
Hey, what's going on? Darian's on the way. We clicked on the wrong link.
No worries, no worries. Thanks for joining us, Chris. Pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. Yeah, we've had a full day here so far, and we got one more after you. We got the Bruce Dirtson with the hemp car after us,
Okay.
in carbon negative fibers. But this is an all-day hemp revolution conference where we're talking about creating a blueprint for a better humanity. And I know that speaks language, Chris. With basic human needs, we got connected about 4 or 5 months ago via LinkedIn, actually, and seeing what you guys are working on, I think is very substantial. That needs to be done. Creating basic human needs products for local development. Rather than creating extravagant widgets and doodads and ship them from China to Taiwan, all over the world. You guys are really focusing on what do humans need to be created locally. And so when we got involved in talking about working with hemp, I think you guys really saw the viability of what hemp can do for the planet. But one of the goals of this is help other people be able to find roads into the hemp space. How do they get involved into it? And so I'd love to talk a little bit more about your story with basic human needs and some of your guys' plans. And welcome, Darian.
Hey.
I was just having Chris going to be going over some basic human needs story and the plan for the future, and talk about how communities can get involved with some of the initiatives.
Okay. Good to see you. Yeah. Again, basic human needs is BHN is what it is. We have a focus on BHN brand products. Our goal is we're not really trying to carry different brands. I think we have our niche by carrying our own brand that's branded by our logo, and we have a specific. I'm glad that we connected with Stephen and Hemp for the Future, because now it gives our product list, or actually it gives just the basic human need product set alone a whole new meaning. It was already a meaning what we're trying to do with the platform itself and where we was trying to go with it, but now it's green, it's circular, and that's the future, and we're the ones that have the chance to actually change that by implementing all this new technology, green, into these type of products with a focus. And this was designed even pre-COVID, but now it's even more with the focus on it and what we're trying to do, not just here in America, but even all the way around the world, which is great. One other thing, what we're doing with Stephen, even though it's a big market out there, but we even have an even more focused market within the market, in which our focus is on opportunity zones. And that's just a wonderful infrastructure for us to go in with this kind of model, to bring in manufacturing, or what we call micro manufacturing, agriculture, all different, our retail store, our warehousing. So we're going to pull all that together and use the power of BHN distribution and buying power and retail power to scale a lot of this green things that's going on. And overall, BHN is we're a design company. So we design specifically these type of products. When we say BHN products, we don't just mean it's cheap products. No, we're taking the latest technology and fibers in this green movement, and we're going to implement it into these different products and offer new products with this green movement in ways they've never seen before, with this type of brand and this type of retail store. So, and then we have a little different, like I said, our mission. We're going into opportunity zones, not just to set up shop, but to help people. This circular system and this new green movement and how we can implement it into these opportunity zones is a lot of opportunity. And with the BHN platform, we can go in there and implement this. And with blockchain technology, I mean, we're using the latest technology to push this just basic and needed type of platform. The latest in blockchain, we got BHN tokens, which connects back to the manufacturing and connecting with products that the people actually can buy. So it's a great time to get all this technology and push it with this green movement, but have a real great focus in where we're trying to go and what we're trying to do. You're on mute. You're on mute, Steve.
Oh, great, thanks. And no, I love your guys' initiative and mission, and how we can go into opportunity zones, help set up local manufacturing, and help it become from a local crop. So you're creating jobs all the way around. You're minimizing the carbon footprint of shipping products farther than needed, and these micro manufacturing centers with these basic human needs products is pretty substantial. I mean, a lot of people don't know that the Koch brothers, one of their main products is paper. And if we can put in these micro processing centers in opportunity zones around the country, it not only creates abundance, but it minimizes destruction on multiple levels. And so I really like the Basic Human Needs Network, and I'm glad to be working and to know you gentlemen. And Darian, we were the first ones to get connected, and I always appreciated your language and mission towards humanity first, and unity and connection to the communities. And so, could you talk about some of the initiatives with BHN on helping develop stability in communities that need it the most?
Well, that's just it. That's just it, Stephen. We're here for humanity first. It's all about the people. For the people, and with Christopher, coming to the table with this vision of basic human needs. Well, with my spirit, it just gravitated to me to reach out to Christopher and join hands and lock hands, just like you. I mean, our spirits, our minds, what we believe in is to create a dynamic, circular, regenerative, and sustainable community for the world. I mean, this is a global ecosystem mission. We're driven, we're disciplined. We see the writing on the wall, and this is way bigger than ourselves. And like I said before, the spirit has called me to serve. I'm just a waiter. I'm here to serve. You see what I'm saying, Stephen? So I mean, this to me was a no-brainer because it holds dear to me that we're here helping the underserved, the underprivileged, and the low-income individuals throughout our country and around the world. But we have the ingredient. Each of us have our own gifts, skills, and talents. But we're coming together to build this bridge for the people. And there's no bias here. It's not about color, race, or religion, or creed. It's about helping each other. But we're coming together as a team, which means together everyone achieves more, right? So with that said, being a team, we have the ingredients. Each one of us has the ingredients to come together, to connect, to build a sustainable social impact empire for every man, woman, and child.
Well said.
You there, Stephen?
Like we lost Stephen. Either we lost him or he lost us. There you go.
Hey,
Hey, sorry. Sometimes being on a tropical island has its perks and
It
its
does.
drawbacks, like Wi-Fi connection. But no, I caught most of what you're saying, Darren, about being called to serve. And for me, along my journey, being an entrepreneur and getting involved in sustainability about 10 years ago, I've been in every space from renewable energy to impact finance to social entrepreneurship to regenerative ag, and the people that tend to come to the hemp space, they find this plant because it's healed them in some way, shape, or form, and they want to help bring that awareness and that potential and that availability to the masses. And so yeah, I'm very grateful for your guys' work and how we can move this forward. One of the things I want to talk about, I haven't really mentioned too much today, is about how blockchain will play a role into creating not just transparency with the products, but also new forms of economic abundance. So can you guys talk a little bit about your blockchain initiatives with BHN?
Yeah, I mean, I love blockchain, and as CEO, of the company, it's understanding, what has been done with it now, and is new, and now it's getting ready to get even more into the mainstream market, which it is, but the potential is huge. And understanding what we understand now about blockchain, and trying to get this new technology around different platforms, because our mission of what we're doing and how we're going to implement the blockchain to help us get this. We're still implementing it, and we're still bringing people on board, because again, it's potential. So we need these developers and different people with this blockchain to really understand what our mission is, how it can help our platform, and how can it evolve from there, and what we can actually do with it. What we are right now, because we're so supply driven, we know we can have help with that and maintaining our supply chain, and what we're trying to do with our supply chain, from just going from seed to consumer and everything in between. And we see that push into that. And blockchain is it's disrupting and being a part of so many different things that we could pull it into all aspects of what we're trying to do with BHN, even in logistics. How that can be, a mainstream of data for our logistics. Even our token base and how it can actually be a part of that. So we're very fortunate and very excited about coming out as a retail platform that has a lot of this technology embedded into our platform, and we're looking forward to that.
Great. And yeah, I'd like to get you guys being in the manufacturing space and creating good. What do you guys feel is hemp's greatest use case to get started with?
Wow. I mean, it's then open up to 50,000 cases that can be used. I'm trying to go for all of that, and really understanding, as I get to know, really understand the product and understand how the product is broken down. And then as a design company, we take that information and that data and we match it to our products. So, we're going for the whole spectrum. I mean, use cases in clothing, like I say, different fabrics, definitely building materials. It goes on and on. Medical supplies. However we can take that information and break it down, and we're going to take and we're going to design that around these different products, in whatever we have now, and even to the point of really understanding and creating it for other products in the future. So, we're just looking at adopting it in as many ways possible in these basic human need in packaging. The list goes on and on and on. So no one area is just, like they do wood, it just goes across the board, and that's the way we're going to do it.
Right, Stephen. I mean, I like it like this: no stone unturned, no hemp unturned, no hemp unturned. So, with that said, I mean, we have to build homes. We have to build roofs for these individuals. We have to build, what's important right now, COVID-19. We're in the middle of this. Who knows what's going to happen in the next year or two with COVID-19? Or you making hemp for protective materials. These are the things that we should be focused on. That is as nipping the problem in the bud. That's what's happening right now in our country. So focusing on those type of things and getting that out of the way to cover the most important things that's happening in our economy, that's where we need to hone in, on the hemp building.
Yeah, I really agree. I think hemp housing is really prime to make a lot of headway quickly. It's one of the easier things to manufacture from. It's concrete's made in every region, of the country. So I think it's also a huge component. I mean, even it being antibacterial, which is a cleaner home, for diseases. I even heard earlier today, guys, that there's some cures for COVID-19 with cannabis solutions coming out as well, which,
wow.
Yeah, it's I don't know why I'm surprised. I even found out one of the things I learned today that there's some eye drops they found to help regenerate people with blindness issues around cataracts and other. It regenerates the neurons in
Wow.
the photoreceptors in the eye.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty limitless. But on the housing initiatives, I'd like to talk about some of your guys' conversation you're having with political parties on getting these kind of new sustainable housing initiatives using hemp into place. Could you talk a little bit about your work there and what you guys found and feedback you got from different government figures?
Yeah. Well, again, our focus is the opportunity zones, and there's two levels of the opportunity zones. There's a level where HUD is actually intertwined within the opportunity zones, and it's just the opportunity zones itself. Within HUD, there is with 13 million people, so we know, inside the HUD system, and there's 35.2 million people within the actual opportunity zones. Our concept is to We want to create housing. And actually, BHN wants to be the transformation of HUD from HUD to BHN Sustainable Homes. We want to get rid of the HUD initiative and bring everybody into, it's not affordable housing, it's housing. And how we're going to bridge that gap is we're going to bridge that gap with the manufacturing, with everything that we're going with into these opportunity zones. So it could be a balance of job and ownership. Opportunity zones are what they call deserts. There are food deserts, there's job deserts, there are bank deserts. It's just a desert. and if you go into the desert, there's no water. We got to bring the water. So when we go there, we're looking at and they ask us, they was like, we really want to take these HUD people and get them into another system. We need them off the HUD system, but they didn't have a plan. We said we'll take we want all of them. We want the whole 13.2 million, give them to us. And then what we'll do is once we get them, we want to transform them into this new housing. So, bam, we got like 13 million people right off the rip that we have to actually supply with new housing. And this is across America. It starts from the East Coast to the West Coast and everybody in between. So we
it's
have
not,
that.
it's not, I mean, just not to cut you off, Christopher, but it's not just the housing. Right. It's the jobs. It's the trade jobs. It's everything that we have in our inner circle between Hemp for the Future and BHN that they need. We're trying to bring them up to snuff to be independent, from generation independent. So all these people are dependent on the government. We have to bridge the gap so they can become independent, meaning the housing, the trade jobs, everything in between that we have as resources. So it's not just the housing itself. It comes with everything else that we will provide and can provide for this 13 plus million people.
Right. And that's going to expand. So that's what's being given to us as a problem to solve. They're giving us a problem. It's not like we go but we're good with that because 13 million people to us are 13 million clients. You don't get that overnight. You kind of got to build for that. So if it fell right on our lap, we're going to use that opportunity, with the green push, everything. I mean, we want to put that new energy into these homes. And our focus and our design for these new homes are awesome. So we know that's going to be a great bridge and a great push for a mass production of hemp products to be able to build these homes, and that's our focus.
That's great. I really love how hemp can not just bring in local production of goods, but it creates local jobs. It's its own platform for a better future. And I really appreciate you guys putting together the framework for these micro manufacturing centers. That's something that really is needed for the hemp industry. There's not a lot of manufacturers, and everything about you guys are doing.
Think you freeze up on us again, Steven? He froze on us again?
Yeah, it's because he's in paradise.
The next,
he's in paradise.
Got to get to paradise and broadband. There we go. We had lost you. We lost you.
Okay. So the last question I'd like to ask you guys is, one, how do you think the everyday person can get involved and help the hemp industry along? And two, what do you guys feel is the greatest keys that will help expand the industry as a whole?
the first question, we're going to be pushing every day to bridge that gap and to make that partnership with those building materials. So, as we're going along with that, as we do PR and we continue to show the world what we're doing, we think we can grab a lot of followers and really understand and enjoy and want to be a part of what we're doing. So we're going to kind of lead as example. We're going to do what we're going to do. And then once the people see what we're doing, we hope that they'll, continue to work with us or grab on us to partner with us and continue doing, helping us what we do. And, we're just going to stay focused, on the development, of all the hemp products and try to expand it all the way across the board. And we got that opportunity to do that. And even the things we haven't even thought of that we're going to need for the basic human need products. So, the sky's the limit in what we can design these products into and what we can develop. And, we're trying to develop on a mass level. So, we're trying to expand it, not just from products, even from investments in actually growing it, because we got to grow a lot of hemp. So we definitely want to do more investment in that also.
Yeah, I agree, Christopher. I mean, the thing is, Stephen, is that once the world, the world is watching us. There's no doubt about it. The world is watching Hemp for the Future and BHN. And once we break ground, like I told Christopher, once we break ground and cut red tape, and we show the world what we can do at its capacity, you better believe they all going to be standing in line waiting to be a part of it and how they can support, how they can help, and what they can do to bring their resources and their capital to the table. So, if it's like they say, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. So they're waiting. They're waiting. They're waiting for us to prove ourselves that we're not just talkers, but we're doers. And once that happens, we can guarantee that the world will be knocking at our door. So that's what it comes to. I mean, we know the government uses taxpayer dollars to do things. But at the same time, in the private sector, as we have to show them how to start it, how to capitalize off of this. And you better believe all that taxpayer money will come to the resources, to the help of helping our cause. Because this company is not a biased company. This is for humanity. We all have the same problems. We all dealing with the same things in life, not just in the United States, but around the world. But we're the solution. We are the solution.
Yeah, I think together, working on all these things, it's really going to expand. It's going to be a wild ride the next 5 years, I feel.
Sure.
And I've been ready for it. Gentlemen, I really appreciate your time today. I'm gonna sign off for now. We have our next guest in about 20 minutes. Actually, I'm gonna talk to David Cam. He will be on in a minute about hemp and the sustainable development goals. But gentlemen, it was a true pleasure having you guys on, and thank you so much for your work.
No problem,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Talk soon.
We'll be talking soon, Steve. Thank you.
All right. It's been a day. All right, the next little bit of the show until Bruce gets on, I kind of want to talk about how hemp can affect each one of the Sustainable Development Goals. And David Cam and I have been putting together the framework for regional development. It's a lot of what we've talked about today, and even financial tools for new communities to come online with this plan. So we've developed a framework for a bond, a Sustainable Development Goal bond that is primarily backed by hemp production. So imagine in your region, in your county, right, or your state or country, wanted to get involved in the industrial hemp space, and they could create their own bond, just like any other bonds that are out there, green bonds, energy bonds, business bonds. But our focus is the community investing into these bonds and the local municipalities. So the more localized we can get it, the I think the faster this industry will expand. And each region knows what they're already producing and what they need. So imagine your county could put up its assets, whether it be land, buildings, equipment, etc., to back a bond to raise the money. And the numbers that we've been looking at from all the industrial hemp space, to set up a decent regional facility, you need around $30 million to do that. And you need to grow at least 12,000 to 20,000 acres of hemp, depending on the strain. So our work there is to build the financial tool for one of the first hemp bonds that not only just we can use, but whole nations could use, whole counties, countries, cities, etc. And that's one of the reasons why the hemp space hasn't expanded as much as quickly as it should, I feel, is because there hasn't been financial tools for it. There hasn't been banking for it. There hasn't been loans. There hasn't been a stabilized market for it. So by creating not just the tools needed to grow and process the hemp, but the financial tools needed to have industries expand, I think is very important. And that's what David Cam and I have been working on, and he's going to be joining me momentarily before we get on with Bruce. And yeah, I guess my call to you guys is, along with the cooperative model and regional development, if anyone's interested in what it would take to put together a bond for your region, you can reach out to either David and I. We've been working on it for over a year and a half now. We've been talking with groups like Climate Bonds and S&P and the environmental finance managers of cities, and looking to be one of the first people that put this together. And I think it's a powerful tool that can ensure that the regions developing the crop can maintain ownership in it. Around that term parity, I mentioned that earlier. Parity is a economic measurement of value that's derived from a region that stays in a region. And when farmers were in their heyday, about 50% of the economic value stayed in the region, and that was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And now the total economic value that stays in the region is around 10%. So companies like Monsanto and General Mills and Kellogg's and Nabisco, they've kind of monopolized the industrial ag space, and they've been extracting value from those regions. So that's why I really like working with groups like Basic Human Needs that are working on creating localized, community operated and owned entities that will produce these products for a better future. And there's one thing I learned today is that the calling for this plant for the time of what's going on, it's a solution for so many things, from housing to medicine to energy to food to clothing, plastics, paper. There's almost nothing I figured that this plant can't do. So I appreciate you guys listening and watching. Our next guest is Bruce. He's with Carbon Negative Fibers. He also built one of the first hemp cars for Jay Leno, even though Henry Ford actually made the first hemp car back in 1936, I believe, and in 1937 is when they banned hemp production. So a year after Henry Ford made a car out of hemp, they banned the cultivation of it. So this information needs to get out there. I know it's been coming, and I'm just excited to be on this journey and to push this forward. And throughout the day, we spoke with Melissa Gibson with Hemp and Humanity. We started off the day. She's been pioneering work on how connecting forces around hemp and humanity. We also had Hannah. Hannah's with Hemp the Climate. She's been building alliances and curbing policy and writing books on hemp and the sustainable development on an international level. We also had Bert James on the show. Bert has built one of the largest co-ops in the United States. Been in regenerative ag for over 5 years now, and actually 10 years in the hemp space for 5. We had Rico with Canna Vision, building community, culture, lifestyle, and connecting people on a media front. We had Basic Human Needs, talked about building out manufacturing centers in opportunity zones. We had Tracy Ryan with Canna Kids and Weed the People. She's been doing pioneering work on medicinal studies of this plant, and from cancer to vision to autism. Has done some incredible work there, and yeah, I've been blown away, and feel really fortunate. One of the solutions a lot of the guests mentioned on how to help expand the hemp industry is to vote with your dollar and purchase products made from hemp. Talk to your local retailers and ask them to start carrying your favorite hemp products. Talk to local manufacturers. Talk to your policymakers. I don't want to rely on government for much of anything, but the times are changing, and the fact that the UN come December is going to decriminalize cannabis is a monumental step. There's countries that couldn't even grow hemp because it would disqualify them from any kind of financial aid from any of the global bodies. So it's a very transformational time that we're in with the hemp, with the climate, with politics, and it's a new shift, a new paradigm that we're going through, and when you look at the connectivity that you have to information and real facts and data and research, the science is clear and the jig is up. I think hemp is going to be a darling for a better planet, and I am ready. Give me 1 second. I got David coming on. Hey, there he is,
Hi,
Mr.
hi,
Cam.
Stephen. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
Good, good. You did really well today, and thank you for hosting this with us. Um, all the guests and yourself provide a lot of information about hemp and how hemp can change the world. I think we will use hemp to change the world, right?
It'll definitely be one of the tools for sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for having me hosted. I feel very very fortunate. Thank you.
You're welcome. So go ahead.
I'd like to, before Bruce comes on, I'd like to go over some of your story, David, and in our story, kind of collectively getting into the hemp space. You and I met probably almost 3.5, 4 years ago now, and I remember when I first told you about hemp. You said it's too early. People don't like it. There needs to be changes. And about a year and a half, 2 years after that, I think you really saw the overall benefits of what hemp can do, and you've been a champion for it. I was just talking about some of the sustainable development goal initiatives around the bond we've been building together, and your alliances. Could you talk about a little bit about Unlimited Hemp and its initiatives with native tribes and building community and regional development?
Originally, Stephen, you approached me about hemp, and I was said it was too early because I was saying that we're all going to be arrested. That's what I literally said to Stephen. I said, it's not that I believe in hemp and to do so many things like biofuel, medicine, food, and hempcrete. I knew all that already. But I was saying that we start growing it and processing it, we're all going to be arrested, you know. So I was picturing the police coming down to arrest us for making a building or something out of hempcrete, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm aware, and no one's getting arrested here, not anymore. But yeah, talk about your relationship with the native tribes and bringing them into the hemp space and some of the initiatives around the bond.
You know, a lot of mining and logging companies are intruding on the indigenous territory. Originally in 2010, when I started working on the Anishinaabe first and the Mohawks, a lot of logging companies are coming in to clear cut their trees. And believe it or not, 50% of all the trees that are clear cut in the boreal forests of Canada are going to make toilet paper, premium toilet paper for the United States, which was, I thought was crazy. We're cutting down the forest, leaving it barren and displacing indigenous people. And while we have this crop called hemp, which could produce 10 times more pulp every single year than a 40-year-old tree, you know. So why don't we use that, you know, as Buckminster Fuller said, you don't change the existing you change the existing reality by providing something an alternative solution to those problems. So by growing hemp and then processing it to create pulp for paper and for toilet paper, basically it stops these forestry companies coming in to clear cut the territory. So that's the first idea that we got to protect indigenous territories was that the hemp. That's for the reason. Then the other reason also is that a lot of companies are coming into the example, the Amazon rainforest, a lot of Chinese companies especially, coming down to actually drill for oil, which is pollutes the entire rainforest area. But again, we come to hemp as a solution that creates ethanol and biodiesel, which can power a clean, provide clean energy and power the cars and so on. So that's how I got into the space. And I fought Stephen in the beginning about, you know, because I thought we were all going to be arrested. But once Donald Trump legalized hemp with the Farm Bill, which is, you know, I was thank, you know, there are a lot of people say that I don't like Donald Trump and so on. But one thing he really did good was for the hemp industry by passing the hemp bill, and it helped many farmers, and it will create a huge industrial revolution around the world. Basically, hemp will change the world, and Donald Trump will be instrumental in history for that. You know, so what do you think, Stephen?
Well, I do agree with the sentiment that Donald Trump, and it wasn't just him that signed the bill to get it in the law. Actually, a lot of people don't know that Mitch McConnell was instrumental on getting the hemp bill passed into the farm bill, and he actually was a shareholder in Gencana, which is one of the larger hemp companies in Kentucky, and so he really only got it passed because he was trying to line his own pockets, Mitch McConnell. And then Gencana went bankrupt, I think, as most people in the industry know. But whatever the reason, I'm glad it happened, and I am thankful that Donald Trump did sign it in there. I think unknowingly they've really allowed a new industrial revolution to happen. I don't think they knew what they were doing when they passed hemp into production, and now they're trying to do some different policy stuff on minimizing the expansion of it, especially in the medicinal side. But no, I think it's a plant that's time has come, and I'm happy that it's going on. So before Bruce gets on, let's talk a little bit about your network in the hemp space. I remember one time I asked you, David, you told me I have the top person and such and such. And I said, do you always have to have the top person? And you said, well, Stephen, why wouldn't I always want to try to get the number one person in the space? And Bruce definitely is one of the top people in carbon fibers using hemp and car production and car design. He's been doing it for a long time. Tell us a little bit about how you got to get connected with Bruce.
As you know, I'm kind of you would say, a lazy person, because lazy person, I don't want to spend my time going through layers of people to get to a decision maker. So I just say, why not we just go to the top? Somebody who makes the decisions, like the founder, the chairman, the president, CEO. Why we have to go through so many layers? So that's my philosophy. And if I need something, and I would just just try to reach, example, the UN, try to reach the Secretary General or the Deputy Secretary General. If it's a company, I try to reach a CEO or chairman. I usually, nobody has said no to me yet, that they don't want to deal with me. So it has worked. But that's my approach. And my connections in the hemp space, a lot of these connections were built through friendship or relationships a long time ago. They were not a business relationship. When the farm bill came, these friendships become business relationship, because most of I have a lot of friends that are indigenous or Native American or First Nations, and we found out that it's a really game changer for indigenous nations, for sovereignty and both economic sovereignty and political sovereignty, because written into both the Canada hemp laws or cannabis laws and the U.S. hemp and cannabis laws is that actually indigenous nations are allowed to write their own hemp laws or their own cannabis laws to suit their sovereignty or their needs. So actually the farm bill, they're outside of the cannabis and hemp laws, if they're able to assert it properly. So every indigenous nation should be writing their own hemp and cannabis laws. The only requirement is for the sovereignty is that they have to send a notification to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, indicating that they have the laws written, and and inside the bill or the laws that they're going to implement is how are they going to track the THC levels and also police it. So that's the only thing that they're worried about. As long as they have that in their legislation, there's no problem. A lot of the times, a lot of tribes try to grow a hemp or cannabis without these laws implemented properly yet. And then you see the federal government coming in and seizing the crops or trying to burn it, or because they have not implemented properly. But if they go through the proper protocol, like work with us, like Stephen and myself, they would not have these issues. So we're providing the support for them for that, right, Stephen?
Yeah, that's great. It's pretty expansive on what hemp can do, right?
And definitely, we can hemp the future.
I like it. And we just have Bruce joining us. David Kraft here with us. Bruce, how are you tonight?
Doing great, guys. How are you, Stephen and David?
Great. Also, I invited Ashley to join us. I'm not sure she's on yet. We'll just wait for her, or you just want to start the introduction, Stephen? Is you're the host?
Yeah, we'll start with Bruce, and then if Ashley comes on, we'll go on to her. But Bruce, thank you so much for joining us. Bruce is the founder of Renew Car. He's also with Carbon Negative Fibers. And you also just helped rewrite Jack Hare's book with his son Eric, I believe you were mentioning. So I know you've been. It's right there, lovely. I know you've been a pioneer and an evangelist in this space for a handful of years now. I would love for you to tell the audience on kind of how you got started in hemp and regenerative practices, and then we'll go into some of your work.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks, Stephen and David. My name is Bruce Michael Dietzen, and I'm the founder of Renew Sports Cars and also Carbon Negative Fiber. Some of you might have seen some of the videos and articles that are written about the car that I produced. Right now, we're producing a limited production of the first modern hemp car on the planet. That's not the only thing I do, though. That's actually kind of a small thing. I'm looking at doing something much bigger with something called carbon negative fiber. But what David asked me to do today was to kind of present kind of a visionary sort of thing as to where we can go and the challenges and the opportunities in the hemp space. So what I'd like to do is just go ahead and talk about those things, if that's all right.
Why don't we show a clip of the hemp car from Jay Leno?
Oh, do you guys have that?
Yes, we have that. We're going to show it too.
If you're wondering why I'm at a farm, it's because we're going to meet a man who's building a car using homegrown materials, hemp specifically, which is one of the oldest materials grown in America. In fact, the United States Constitution was written on hemp paper. So if you ever read a Supreme Court decision, you wonder what the judge has been smoking. There you go. Bruce, how are you?
Great, Jay. Nice to meet you.
Bruce Dietzen, a now retired Dell executive, set out to make the world's greenest car. After being inspired by Henry Ford, who made a hemp car way back in 1941, Bruce decided to produce a sportier version of his own.
Now, this car that you've designed, you called the Renew. This is made entirely of hemp.
Yeah, the body is made from hemp.
Jay Leno's Garage, all new Wednesdays at 10.
Hey, CNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Here you'll find videos from all your favorite CNBC shows. Be sure to subscribe by clicking right here. Click on the videos around me.
Yeah, that's a good plug for Jay's show, huh?
I think we chose the wrong video. I think there was a long version, right?
Yeah, that's good though. But there's some other stuff. There's some good footage in there of Jay beating up on the car and that sort of thing that you usually do. But yeah, that was a great experience dealing with Jay, and so that was fun.
We also have Ashley Gokin on here. She's from Opalis and Gokin Technologies, and she is a part of the team with Bruce Dietzen, Ashley Gokin, and ourselves to build a hemp supercar made that is electric. So just go ahead, Bruce, and continue who you are. Just talk a little bit about it?
Yes, certainly, gentlemen, and Ashley. Yeah, I think where we are right now, we're kind of at the dawn of what I would call an inevitable new era of challenge and opportunity. Now, probably most folks are familiar now at this point of the challenge that we are in as a human society. The IPCC has pretty much stated that we have 10 years to turn things around. And that requires not only stop burning fossil fuels, but also a mandate that we have to take CO2 out of the atmosphere. And this all plays to the advantages of the hemp plant. Now, the opportunity is both in the areas of small entrepreneurs, but also the large corporations, even including fossil fuel industries and mining industries. And there are a lot of them right now that are looking for alternative spaces to invest in because they know that these finite resources are going away, number one. And number two, obviously fossil fuels have to go away if we want to save the planet. It's an inevitable situation. So 80 years ago, my hero, Henry Ford, came up with an idea that is absolutely revolutionary. Now, most of us are familiar with Henry Ford and believe that his number one contribution and invention was the mass production concept of building things in line, etc., and mass producing products, or the V8 engine or something like that. But that's not true. His number one contribution to human society was the invention of the hemp car. It wasn't made 100% out of hemp. A lot of people get that wrong. But it was made somewhat. It was made 50% out of plant materials, and of that, hemp was one of those fibers that was used. And the other aspect of that is that he also fueled it with the scraps from his hemp growing fields. Yes, Henry Ford did grow cannabis hemp, to the disillusion of those who might not understand that. But, his vision is something that we need to embrace as a human society, and it is the path for a renewable future of something that I call sort of thrival. It's not only how we will survive going into the future, but it is also how we will thrive going into the future. And hemp, of course, is perhaps the most versatile plant that can be used in this mandate going forward. We need to start making everything from plant material. That's what Henry Ford taught us 80 years ago, and that's where we have to go into the future. And hemp is the most versatile plant that can do that job for humanity. Just to give you a few examples, there's fuel, right? We all know that we have to stop burning fossil fuels, right? That's a well-known fact, and it has to stop soon. And of course, all the fossil fuel companies and the giant petroleum and natural gas companies are looking right now for an alternative way to make these types of fuels. They know that solar and wind is going to be a source of energy going forward. It's already a cheaper source of fuel. At least solar is already a cheaper source of fuel. And wind is already big. It's huge. There's hundreds of millions being invested in these technologies. But what's going to happen in the future, we're still going to need these liquid fuels. We're still going to need these gaseous fuels. And they can be made out of hemp. In fact, if you take a look at, say, books like Drawdown, which is one of the most popular books on the topic of saving the planet, on how to draw down the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. It states that one of the things that we need to do, one of the most important things that we need to do is reforestation. One of the things that's not being talked about, however, is the opportunity not to just plant trees in these places around the world that have been deforested. There's a lot of people talking about reforestation, but there's a little bit of a problem with that. Forests don't grow nearly as fast as hemp. The amount of biomass that can be generated by hemp is 4.1 more biomass than timber. So if we simply just replant the tropical forests and reforest them, well, they'll grow until they're to the point of maturity. And once a plant is fairly mature, or a tree is fairly mature, it doesn't really suck that much CO2 out of the atmosphere. You plant it right now, it's going to suck a lot of CO2 out of the atmosphere. But if we use some of that plant, some of those deforested areas to cultivate a plant called hemp, we can actually cultivate that and harvest that several times a year potentially, which would, again, at a rate of 4.1 times faster than trees, it's going to be a great source of fuel. So I would predict within the next decade or more, or what have you, you're going to see a big oil companies and natural gas companies, because hemp not only can create a liquid fuel like methanol and gasoline and diesel, etc. It can also create a natural gas called syngas. So this is something that I think the big fossil fuel companies are going to migrate to. So for those of your audience that are listening to this and they're looking for, that are in that industry and they're looking for another avenue to invest, they should be taking a look at hemp if they are not already. I suspect that they probably are. And you could see giant rainforests being cultivated in places like Brazil and Indonesia, where they're growing hemp for liquid and gaseous fuels. There will always be a demand for those to complement the solar and the wind types of energy. Another example is medicine. Obviously, we've all watched the boom in CBD, and we've seen that hemp is a great medicine for things like PTSD and epilepsy. And they're finding now, of course, that there's a real opportunity that the hemp plant, the cannabis plant, can also be used to treat things like cancer. We've gone for 80 some years without having the type of research that should have been occurring, because hemp was outlawed back in 1937. Basically, it was outlawed, and so that type of research hasn't been there. So we're seeing tremendous amounts of energy being poured into the medicinal area. Food, of course, is another one. Not everyone knows this, but thousands of years ago, one of the primary sources of food in ancient China was the hemp seed. It's one of the most nutritional foods that are available on the planet. I won't go into that. I'm sure you've got other speakers that are talking about that. The hemp clothing is another area as well, right? Like what I'm wearing right now. This is made out of hemp, of course. It's my favorite shirt, and it's lasted for years. This thing has been washed and washed and washed, and it's just the most comfortable thing I have, and it's my pride and joy. So we can see in the future that clothing will be replaced by hemp. It will be replaced. We can no longer continue to make synthetic clothing. It's just not sustainable. We have to stop making stuff out of petroleum, right? When petroleum is gone, we're going to turn to natural fibers. And we all know, or at least most people know, that cotton requires massive amounts of fertilizer and even more amounts of pesticides and twice as much water as hemp does to grow. And hemp, this shirt will outlast me, my friends. I'm telling you right now, this shirt will be there when I'm gone. So we've got those sorts of things. And of course, then we also have building materials and structural materials. Everyone's familiar now with hempcrete. It's an incredible product. It is not structural. I'll talk about structural in a second, because that's my main gig that I'm after. But hempcrete helps us address not only new buildings, but also existing buildings to add an insulation factor, because buildings right now are very inefficient. And it's one of the best ways that we can fight the climate crisis is to further insulate our current buildings that exist right now. And hempcrete is a fantastic insulating material for that. And in the last area I just want to briefly mention is the area of structural materials. Everyone's probably familiar with the idea of hempcrete and how that can be used for construction material. But there's other materials that are starting to be developed, which we're trying to pioneer at Carbon Negative Fiber. And these are materials made from hemp that will replace things like steel, aluminum, fiberglass, and carbon fiber. Now, if you take a look at the disruptive technologies that are happening around all of the different sectors right now, from energy to agriculture to transportation, those are 3 of the 4 largest contributors to the climate crisis that we're experiencing right now. But the number 3 space, the number 1 contributor to climate change, or the number 3 contributor to climate crisis right now, is the industrial sector, where they make everything around us that you see, from the chair you're sitting on, the computers we're talking on right now, to the cement that goes into the concrete that makes our buildings, and then finally to the structural materials that include steel, fiberglass, aluminum, and carbon fiber. Cement has always been thought of as the number 1 bad boy in that industrial sector. Cement constitutes about 8% of the current man-made greenhouse gases in the world. It's a huge problem because there's so much of it. But actually, if you add up the steel and the aluminum and the fiberglass and the carbon fiber, which constitute the structural materials being used, that's actually 9%. So while a lot of companies and hundreds of millions of dollars are being invested in fixing the problem with highly carbon intensive cement in the world right now, there's a problem right now that needs greater attention, and that is the structural materials. And so what you've seen when I made this car, and when Henry Ford made his car 80 years ago, we were basically replacing steel and with a carbon negative material, which is called hemp. And that is a huge opportunity. To me, that is my area of focus, and where I'm moving forward and putting all my energies right now is making materials like this one right here. It's carbon negative fiber, right? And so this is 4 very thin plies. I don't know if you can see it. It's less than the 16th of an inch. But this is what our bodies are made out of right now, which is about 1/3 the width of Henry Ford's car. And it's lighter than fiberglass, much lighter than steel, 46% lighter than aluminum, and carbon negative. But beyond being carbon negative, it's carbon avoiding, which is something that no one's really talking about yet. How do you stop pumping, 9% of all man-made greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, right? It's a lot. For every pound of steel that's produced right now, 2 tons of CO2 are dumped into the atmosphere. For every pound of fiberglass, 8 pounds of CO2 are dumped directly into the atmosphere. We're not talking about some figurative thing. If you actually collected all of that stuff, 1 pound of aluminum being produced would generate, what was it? I think it was 12 pounds, right? Fiberglass is 8 pounds. So by stopping to use that, by avoiding using those very carbon intensive materials, we can start to turn around this problem we have, this huge challenge that we have with the climate climate catastrophe that's going on right now, which is going to affect us tremendously in the coming decades. The carbon fiber is just a little bit lighter than this material, but 1 pound of carbon fiber that's generated dumps anywhere from 20 to 48 pounds of CO2 directly into the atmosphere. And the good folks that make carbon fiber are saying that carbon fiber is a wonderful material. It's great for the environment because it lightweights vehicles. So your planes, trains, cars, and airplanes and this sort of thing can all have better gas mileage or fuel mileage. But this will do almost the same thing without dumping 20 to 48 pounds of CO2 into the atmosphere for every pound produced. So it's pretty revolutionary. We're really happy with what's going on here, and we see a great opportunity going into the future.
But that's why Bruce is our business partner for the cars. For that reason, because he knows his stuff. He's been at this for a long time. He cares about the planet. And another partner is Ashley Gokin. We're going to go back to you, Bruce. Let's introduce Ashley. Ashley, please introduce yourself. What do you think about hemp? And we'll talk about our project a little bit later.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, David. It's such an honor to be able to be here with you again and with you, Bruce and Stephen. Oh my goodness, this is probably for me one of the most exciting opportunities I've been involved in because, David, as you know, I've had the amazing opportunity to have grown up in this kind of legacy system, being around the most innovative technology that's come onto the market, seeing things that completely disrupted the way that systems used to operate.
I think your sound is a little bit muffled, Ashley. Ashley, your sound is a little bit muffled. Hello?
Can you hear me okay now?
Again? Yeah, now better, yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let me know if I can. I'm out on a farm right now, so our internet's a little iffy sometimes, so I'll take it slow, but just stop me if I cut out again.
Okay.
I was saying how
sure.
I felt so fortunate to have been raised around this incredible legacy of seeing the most innovative technology that comes to the market and completely disrupts systems. And our family got into the sustainability movement back in the 90s when it was still really just starting. And so to see now what's possible with hemp has been one of the most exciting things that I've ever been part of. And on the flip side of that, on a personal note, why this project is even more personal and exciting to me is, on the one hand, my family was really big into technology and the latest innovations, but at home, my mom at 17 saved all of her money, worked her butt off, and bought a scrappy 1971 Stingray Corvette Custom and went around showing with that, completely remaking it, showing it more, and went on to go into showing custom Jaguar as well. And so I grew up seeing these gorgeous photos of my mom doing what she was so for the beauty that can be really imbued into a car. And so this kind of nexus point of being able to design something that is so exciting and thrilling and beautiful, like with your designs, Bruce, but being able to merge that with the future that we all believe we are heading towards if we make these kinds of choices. And Bruce, I love it so much when you called it Thrival. I think that is the best new phrase that everyone should be aspiring towards. So that's just a little bit about why I'm so passionate about this and the work that everyone here is doing. And David, if you're talking, I think you might still be muted.
David, I think you're muted.
There we go.
Okay, yes. I said, sorry about that. I said that Bruce and Ashley are part of a project we're working on called the Da Vinci Supercar Company to produce carbon negative cars made of hemp that with electric motors, and also it's fire resistant. So we're Ashley is providing the designs. We call it the Gokin model, with named after her family name, Ashley Gokin. And Bruce is actually the pioneer, the maverick, that is helping us to realize our dream to create these cars. The cars that we're building is a combination of using new technology that is large 3D printers, and also which we call additive manufacturing, and other innovative technologies that allow us to produce cars fairly quickly, safely, and super strong. So, example, the body of the car that Bruce had built for Renew LLC, the Renew car, is that it is 10 times stronger than steel. But also another important thing about hemp is that the bast fibers of hemp can be used to make basic hemp graphene. If we do that, we can even use that to make the car stringent enough to make it bulletproof. So there is basically the new. I could imagine James Bond driving this car. There's a super fast 1,500 horsepower electric car that is carbon negative of electric motors. And we also are partnered with a new company that can provide electric battery. Actually, the electric battery on a single charge, it can cross the United States 2.5 times before recharging. So we plan to put that battery into the innovation of the hemp body, and also with the beautiful design by Ashley with the Gokin Technologies. We have two other designers, the Matthew Cunningham, which is a world-renowned designer, and then we have also Antonella Camatio. So all these three are helping us design one model of each car, which will be a prototype to be used. And Bruce, my question to you is that to produce these cars, if we enter the market with these hemp cars, do you think that it would be Tesla would view this as competition or complementary?
Well, I don't know the answer to that per se. I would pose the very good possibility that not only Tesla, but Ford and GM and many of the Fiat, Ferrari, etc., in the future will be making more and more of their cars from plant materials. That is already happening. There's a lot of hemp being used in the cars, especially coming out of Europe, and it's being adopted more and more here in the United States as well. We are kind of pushing the envelope in terms of things like how to make a body out of hemp, etc. That is only now also being addressed a little bit by a couple of companies. I started doing that 6 years ago, but that's also going to be happening. The bottom line is, David, we really don't have a choice. I'm talking about we being humanity. We don't have a choice to continue these types of materials that we use right now. Steel is just, and aluminum and fiberglass and carbon fiber are terrible for the environment. Not only in the automotive industry, but in all industries. These types of materials need to be converted over to plant-based materials. And it's not just cars. cars is really just the beginning, David. We're going to see this in our buildings. We're going to see large, tall buildings, etc. We're going to see our 2x4s no longer being made out of timber or even rolled steel. We're going to see it being made out of hemp material. Steel beams, steel I-beams, etc., will be made out of hemp material. We simply have to do that. Because the materials that currently are used by industry require so much fossil fuels, and as fossil fuels are being eliminated, they have to be replaced with materials that will function properly. And fortunately, hemp is lighter than steel and aluminum right now, and fiberglass.
Let's go back to the car, Ashley.
Yeah.
Ashley, you know, to design a car, your family is involved with artificial intelligence to design like a smart car, like provide the technology for a smart car and also an LED technology. How would you envision the Da Vinci supercar to be with these features that you want to put into it?
See, and that's another piece that I get so excited about. And I mean, on a time period here where it's hard to even fathom what technology we're going to have access to, even in the next year, let alone the next 3 years. But I think a really beautiful point also with the designing of these cars, it coincides so perfectly with our family's work in the smart city space. And our whole effort is all about trying to figure out what technology can be used to create the best opportunity for the planet and for the people. So working in technology that's going to keep the environment safe, like you said, utilizing LED lighting, as well as we use peer-to-peer collision avoidance and utilize artificial intelligence when it comes to street sections and are able to communicate with the cars through the infrastructure that's being set up in the city. And with an opportunity like this, we're able to go in and bake in some of that technology right from the foundation of the car itself. But I truly believe the opportunities are endless.
Yes, I think the safety factor is important because if we build a car 10 times stronger than steel, then have these collision avoiding smart technologies built into the car, and also smart navigation and things like that. And also we have also technology partner from Russia that makes the entire car fire resistant. That means that anything happens, it doesn't burn, you know, so they're just extremely important. So we're trying to combine all these best technologies to basically build the next generation's car. It's just not a car, but it is for the protection of the whole family and also the enjoyment. So we want our families to be safe, to also have a safe planet, and you know, we're combining all our heads, hearts, and minds into building a future. A car is just like the reason why I had chosen the car versus a building material is because the car acts as like an ambassador. When we go to countries like Africa or Asia, where it's still illegal, like for example, if you're in the Philippines, you have possession of CBD, you could be arrested and put in jail. So we are going into countries and saying that we want to build a car factory, localized car factory in your location with 3D printing on a small scale. So in order to build these car manufacturers in your country, we need to legalize hemp. So that is our approach, to go to every single country, because our operation, our model is similar to a franchise or McDonald's model. So when we enter these countries, we're building cars, and the cars need hemp. And if a lot of countries, it opens the doors because we're entering into those countries, and all these countries want their own car company inside there because it's a huge prestige. And also, we don't have to ship the car all the way from the United States or Japan or Germany to all these Arabic countries, Asian countries. We could just build them locally there. What do you think about that, Bruce? You're muted. You're muted.
Oh,
Yes,
am I?
yes.
Sorry. Is that better?
Yes, you're okay now. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right, David. I think one of the things that we're going to see in commerce going forward is once the world starts to adopt the idea of using plant material like hemp instead of the traditional resources that have been used for a lot of the manufacturing processes that have happened over the last 100 years, when everyone thought that iron ore and bauxite and petroleum and natural gas were unlimited resources that would never destroy the planet, right? Now that everyone's coming to understand that we need to use plant materials to make everything we can, especially our cars and our buildings and this sort of thing, that's going to be sourced locally, right? So we will see countries all over the world growing their own hemp, because hemp can basically be grown just about everywhere except the polar extremes on the planet. So yes, we're no longer going to be shipping raw materials all around the world. Countries will have the ability to grow their own raw materials and use those to make their automobiles, their buildings, their trains, their planes, their what have you, their clothes, etc., and the fuels.
Stephen, when I first came to you and say that we're making hemp cars, what was your reaction and what were you thinking? I think you thought we were crazy, right?
Well, I don't think you're ever crazy, David. I think you have the biggest dreams I know out of most men. And when you first brought it up to me, I was like, that's an incredible project. And then you told me who's involved and the work behind it. And, just like everything else you do, you make it happen. And so, Bruce's pioneering work in the cars and combining it with Ashley and the designers, I think it's in 3D printing a car. And I still don't know if I believe you if you could drive back and forth across the country 2.5 times on one charge with this new partner of yours. I'll have to see the data on that one. But no, it's cars can it's for America. It's actually been a staple that's allowed freedom. Before we had cars, you weren't free to travel outside your region besides by train. So I do appreciate the hemp car, and I do remember you were thinking about calling it an Edison, and I told you can't call it Edison. Edison stymied Tesla's work by 100 years, and I remember recommending the name Da Vinci, and so I'm glad it's being called the Da Vinci.
Thank you so much. Another thing, Stephen, is that I think this is a good time to talk about a very important topic. Is the financing of all these hemp projects from around the world. About our SDG bond is because a lot of the times right now we have heard many speakers saying they're struggling finding money and things like that for it. And would you like to, you think this is a good time we talk about that, or we should do another talk?
Yeah, we can touch base on it. So, the bond component, the Sustainable Development Goal bond around hemp, I think it's a great way to develop local regenerative economies, and the banks still aren't financing hemp, and I want to keep Wall Street out of it. I want to keep it as grassroots as possible. So the work that we're putting together around hemp bond and including the hemp car in it, and also the biofuel contracts and textiles and everything in between, I think it's a great tool. And I was mentioning even before this came on is that we're building it as a framework for other countries, other regions, other counties to be able to utilize to develop their own financial framework to develop their own production. So I think the bond component is going to be a big part of the financial tools to help the industry expand, as well as blockchain and other initiatives.
Right. Originally when we thought about using hemp bond to finance hemp projects, it's not only our hemp project, it's a framework that finances multiple hemp projects. Everybody wants to have negative carbon fiber companies, to car companies, to boat companies, to growing operations. We could use this framework of hemp bonds. Actually, the first bond, it's actually, there's two types of bonds. One is called a green bond, which is basically a lot of people call social responsibility bond. Is that it's just a bond that is has a rating of the company doing impact, social impact, or mainly in the climate change space, where it shows like how much carbon they're producing from the project, and a lot of the times it's being funded as a green bond. Then there's a subcategory called SDG bond. It expands the green bond. So the green bond is mainly for climate change projects, which this car can be a part of. But the SDG bonds expands it. It could be for water projects, for projects to end poverty, and usually these type of investors are looking for return on investment, but they're more interested in social impact. That how it's going to impact society, how it's going to help people and the planet, right, Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even like Bruce was mentioning that we are no longer at the point where we can deny that we have to stop burning fossil fuels. We have to stop tearing down our rainforest. We have to stop mining for all these products. So the financial markets are starting to look into these ESG, environmental social good investments and opportunities. And I feel like there is a paradigm shifting with the capital markets and realizing that you can't have infinite growth on a finite planet, and that's where hemp plays a big role. You can grow hemp every year, and it produces a lot of biomass, sequesters a lot of carbon, and I think it is going to be a main tool for a regenerative future is hemp. And the information is still just coming out, and that's why we're doing this conference. I still talk to people every day that don't know all the benefits of hemp or how it can be used, and especially people on the political landscape that curb the policy. And the UN making a statement that they're going to be descheduling cannabis on the United Nations level this December. I think it's going to have a big part of opening up other countries to create their own regional economic development plans around hemp. And I think the markets are really starting to understand that we have to take care of the people and the planet, and that this is what actually the consumers want. They want to stop buying products that destroy things or are unethical or have abuse in them. So what we're creating is a framework for an industry to expand in a way that benefits the planet and the community first.
Bruce, what is your and then after we ask Ashley the same question, what's your experience in raising funds for hemp or carbon negative projects that you have found? What are the successes and obstacles that you've been at this longer than I have? And can you share your experience? Maybe like share experience like 10 years ago, then 5 years, and this year, so we can have a progression to see if there was any changes in this type of market for financing.
I'm muted right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go. Thank you for unmuting. Yes, thank you. I am not a finance guy, so I have not really gone out looking for financing. So I wouldn't have much to add in that area.
Okay, no problem. How about Ashley? How about you? In sustainable projects and everything, financing? Sure.
Yes, I can share a little bit on that. And it has been really exciting, I would say specifically in the finance area, for the work that we've been doing, because especially 10 years ago, before I was old enough to really be working with the family to see these deals firsthand, but knowing that the interest was not there, that was honestly one of our biggest boundaries, was we got into the sustainability space almost a decade too early, and no one was willing to spend any extra money or put any financing behind projects just because they happen to be better for the planet. And so that has been tremendous in the last, I would say we started seeing a difference maybe 5 years ago, and a lot more just in the last maybe 2 years, especially with financing solar projects because they kind of sell themselves at this point. But there's still such a slow adoption in the projects we've been working in the smart city space because cities are still kind of dragging their feet in many parts of the world of realizing that there is this huge shift that's happening, but kind of being slow to prioritize it. And this is definitely very different depending on where you're looking. Unfortunately, I would say that this is an area that America really needs to work on because we're going to be left behind if we don't start picking up the pace pretty quickly here. But been working where they were ahead maybe 4 years ago, jumped on the train, both feet in, ready to go, and it was pretty easy to get financing in areas that already have the priorities behind it, I would say.
I would add to my comment earlier, David, that while I've bootstrapped everything I've done over the last 6 years, I have more recently over the last 6 months had a lot of contacts and interest, a lot of it from the Middle East recently, of entities that are looking to divest a little bit in the traditional fossil fuels industries and starting to call me and ask for pitch decks and this sort of thing. 5 years ago, when I first introduced this car and pitched it to some of the cannabis investors, they pretty much laughed me out of the room, say there's no way we are interested in investing in automobiles and saving the planet. We want to invest in marijuana. So you can see what's happened over the last 5 years with the overproduction of THC marijuana and the overproduction of CBD. Now we're seeing a lot more of the big money, the big capital, being interested in the next phase of cannabis, and that, of course, is fiber and grain.
For myself, there's a huge interest that came when Tesla became the most valuable car company in the world.
Sure.
Because electric cars, people were laughing at it, that they're never going to take off. But when Tesla became the most valuable company in the world, then people went back to look at, okay, how can we have alternatives to Tesla or the difference? I think that at least for the electrical car company, there was a company just recently, actually this year, called Loom Motors. They raised $1.1 billion on NASDAQ without any product, with just an idea. They want to have an electric car with some China. And so you could see a huge interest. The stock sold out in minutes, So you could see that there's a huge uptake in the interest. And also with the new president-elect Biden, he said that he wants by, I think by 2040, he wants the United States to be completely electric cars. They won't have any gasoline cars. So, that is will help drive interest and also projects forward. So what do you think about that? Any one of you?
Well, I would expand on that. And what Ashley was saying as well is that over the last few years, this whole concept of using the hemp plant for more than just the flower is expanding rapidly, and just the idea of the car is a great idea, but unlimited hemp is focused on much more than just cars too. So using the hemp materials in lots of different industries is going to be a potential. And we're going to discover a lot of places where our technologies can be used. And I think the demand is going to increase. And to answer your earlier question about Elon Musk and Tesla, do I see them as a competitor? Actually, I see that we could potentially be a supplier to them as well. There can be some great synergistic technologies that go on, because we are going to see that cars in the future will be made out of plant materials like hemp, more so and more so. Not just cars, but everything else around us.
Stephen, you've been in this space for sustainability for a while, and what is you see for the trends, let's say 5 years ago to now? You think there's more interest in the people to finance these type of projects from your point of view, your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I was mentioning earlier that through my journey through sustainability, I've been in renewable energy, I've been in impact, I've been in, regenerative ag, and the awareness for all these things are becoming to a point where you can't ignore them anymore. So, at first, you kind of had to do a lot of explaining on why you're doing your work, but now this work is actually talking for itself, and so. I'm very, very hopeful, and that this kind of the paradigms are shifting, and even who's in control of the capital are wanting to do better things. I've met a handful of legacy type family people that the kids now that are in control of the companies, they have no interest in trying to make billions more of money. They want to impact billions of lives, and I think that's really where we're at in our times is a more of a philosophical debate around money and energy and time rather than just a return on your investment. So I feel like in a system where 8 people have as much money as 3.5 billion, I think we've all realized that it's broken, and we're in the midst of creating new opportunities.
Yes, so we are all part of this global shift. Of course, some people started earlier than us, some people are entering in this later, but now we're all coming together. I think especially through this coronavirus, we have found that we are all one, basically, all interconnected with each other, all interrelated to each other. I mean, when you see the president of the United States getting coronavirus and his wife, you're saying, oh my God, like, no, I mean, everybody's, no matter how we are, we shows that the interconnectedness of entire world, right?
Yeah, I think we've got a great opportunity coming up right now, David, with the new administration, at least in the United States here, and I think it's going to be applauded by the rest of the world as well. President-elect Biden is, and President and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris are big into perhaps not necessarily the Green New Deal the way it's been defined on paper so far. There will be adjustments, obviously, but they recognize that this is an inevitable future. And there's all sorts of talk about we're going to eliminate fossil fuels tomorrow, and people arguing about whether that's a good thing or not. In reality, that's not going to happen tomorrow. In reality, I can tell you right now what's going to happen. Fossil fuels are going to be phased out, but not at a speed that's going to be detrimental to the world economies. They are going to be phased out. It's inevitable. We have no choice. And so what's going to happen is that not only the United States, but other countries around the world are going to jump at the chance of investing in renewable technologies, like we've been talking about.
And also, Stephen and I have a good initiative called the World Hemp Alliance, and we're planning to bring the hemp industry from around the world together to unify them to make policies, education like that. Would you like to talk a little bit about that? I think this is important, Stephen, to talk about that.
Yeah, I think it was your idea to build the World Hemp Alliance. You said, Stephen, we should build the World Hemp Alliance. And I said, is there one yet? And you Googled it and you said no. And so that put us on our path. And the whole goal of the alliance is to bring together the experts like Bruce, like Bert, like all the different manufacturing products that you can do. And if you go to a country and say, hey, here's how you can help stand up your industry. Here's the technology, here's the resources, here's the tools and the training, and then kind of give it to them as a gift, And if the Hemp Alliance makes a small commission off helping set up the infrastructure, but the whole goal of the Hemp Alliance is to bring all the collective wisdom and experience and networks of being in the space for the years we have all been in it, and help countries along and move them ahead faster. So I think it is an important aspect of the work that we do, and I'm ready to start sharing all this with whoever wanting to listen.
Bruce, what do you think about the creation of a World Hemp Alliance, and also Ashley, what do you think?
Well, I think at first it's going to be like herding cats. You know what I mean?
I heard cats. I'm herding cats during this conference.
Exactly, and you know what that's all about, right?
Right.
Trying to get everybody on the same page. But one of the great things is everybody shares the same vision. So I think it's a great idea. We have a lot of associations, hemp associations, that have been launched for several years now, or if not many years. There have been organizations that go all the way back to the point in time when Jack Herer wrote his book here, like Bach, etc. There have been a lot of associations that have popped up, etc. But now the realization that we have to save the planet is no longer just kind of a great idea. Now it's becoming an inevitable situation. I think it's much more viable to talk about worldwide associations and sort of. I think it's totally viable.
How about you, Ashley?
Yeah. To expand on that, Bruce, I agree with the point that it definitely will be a big challenge. But if we're able to get that together, I think that is so important. I think, as you mentioned earlier, David, this year, one of the biggest points that it has shown us is how interconnected we all are. And an alliance like this really brings those two together for me. On one side, we're all realizing how interconnected we are. And at the same time, we're realizing how much work we have to all be part of to be able to combat the climate crisis. And so alliances like this, I truly believe, are kind of this future new way that people need to start going about this evolution. It needs to shift from this mindset of separative and focus on what each individual can do, even if it's under one structure. There can be a lot of great work that's done, but I think the future really is community and collaborative. So I think the alliance is really, really beautiful, beautiful plan.
Just to realize for when this year, last year and this year, hemp farmers growing around more than 50% lost money actually growing hemp because they didn't actually have the expertise for the people supporting them to help them. So when you're talking about these farmers lost money, actually they lost the entire life savings, some of them. So because they don't know where to go and they don't know where to support. So this is a new industry. So every single country that's growing hemp will have these issues. And these poor farmers will suffer. So it is this alliance. It's just share the knowledge. Like during the time at Alexandria, they had a huge library that had all the knowledge from around the world. So we do need to share the knowledge on how to grow this plant, to process it, and to develop it. And that knowledge is there's very few experts in the world right now, and these people are basically what we call the wisdom keepers of hemp or cannabis. And that's what I feel is that these farmers and other people will have less chance of losing money and making mistakes, So that's what I'm thinking of to bring the expertise to help those people.
Well, and things are developing very rapidly. I'm sure you're familiar with Collective Growth, which was launched by Jeff Whaling and Bruce Linton, etc. This last year, they raised $172 million, I believe, to build the infrastructure in North America in order to process hemp fiber and grain. And so you're going to see a lot more capability and infrastructure being invested in here in the next year or two to move things forward in this space. And there are other entrepreneurs out there that are doing some pretty incredible stuff. Just want to plug this. This is a hemp fiber that I got last week from a guy named Patrick Harap, and his company. He has invented a new technology to strip the fiber directly off of a hemp stalk that's pulled directly out of the field. So you don't have to red it or anything like that. You can go ahead and plant another crop the day after you pull the stuff out of the field. And it pulls off these long ribbons of fiber that can be, 4 foot long, which is beautiful, right? So this kind of technology is starting to be developed. What I like about this one in particular is that it doesn't go through these hammer mills. So it's not beating the heck out of the fiber and damaging the fiber. It's keeping it long. So obviously from a physics standpoint, if you use fiber that's long and very small diameter, you're going to get huge tensile strength, which will allow you to use less material and make more competitive products, etc. So there's a lot of technology that's coming out right now. The farmers are definitely in need of the infrastructure. As it stood before, you don't want to plant any hemp unless you've already got your crop sold, right? That's the same in all types of cannabis growing types of situations. But what you're seeing now is some of the technology and the infrastructure to start processing fiber is getting better and better, and the quality of the stuff that's coming out is going to get better and better. Yeah, it's kind of an exciting thing.
Yeah, exciting. Also, Stephen, so you have been in this space. Also, have any farmers face difficulties in cultivating this plant, like losses or so on from your network?
Yeah, I've heard of farmers that have grew without having it sold, and it's astonishing to me that no one actually looked at the numbers for the CBD production. And I think we grew around 3 to 4 times as much CBD as needed for the next 2 years in 2019. So the amount of production we put into place from this green rush was far more than was what was needed. And that's part of being in a new industry, in a green industry. So I totally agree with Bruce. If farmers, if they don't have your crop sold before you plant it, don't plant it. And that's some of the framework we're setting up, is to help get the product sold before they grow it. So there's been a lot of ups and downs in the industry, and there's going to be more. But the more education and the more awareness and the more information gets out there, the less risk the farmers will have to take.
Yeah, there's also a difficulty of insurance. Okay, there's also the difficulty of insurance, right, for the farmers, right, or the operations, right, Stephen?
Yeah, insurance has been an issue. I think the federal government this year put in hemp as part of the crops that get insured. I don't know for sure, but I know they're working on hopefully by next year that the federal government will include hemp as part of the insurance package. But yeah, everything from legal to banking to everything, it's been a hurdle for farmers to get through. But that's part of being on the ground floor.
Right. If the farmers plant the crop and they haven't sold, it rots in the field. And no insurance. That means they're basically their life savings is over, right? It's like close to it, pretty close, much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're rounding out the hour here. I'd like to ask a couple questions before we end it. Bruce and Ashley, what are the 2 questions I have? Is how can the everyday individual get involved in the hemp and help the industry along? And then 2, what do you see as the main ways this industry is going to get unlocked? The keys to unlock the industry to help bring it to the planet, to help on all the things we talked about today.
Ashley, you want to take it first?
Sure. I would say to begin with doing some research. Hemp industry and got in by knowing some truly brilliant innovators like the three of you here that knew that I was involved in the sustainability space. And it was through these other really passionate people that I had my eyes open to how incredible the plant is and how much it can transform the world. And so I think the industry is really still at the beginning phase. And I think there's going to be so many different areas that people can get involved. Bruce, you touched on so many of uh, the different products, and that's still even just like a drop in the bucket of that.
Right.
I think farming is obviously one choice, but I think that there's going to be so many opportunities on the innovation side and all these different applications. And I can't wait to see the new entrepreneurs that are born through this and the new products that we can't even think of just yet.
And I'll add on to that. I think probably the most important thing that the viewers here, if you're not already very familiar with hemp, number one thing is education. So if folks are not really familiar with hemp, this is the book, the most important book probably ever written. It's definitely the best-selling book, 700,000 copies. It's called The Emperor Wears No Clothes by Jack Herer. 30 years of research went into this, and he passed away about 10 years ago. So I worked with the Herer family to republish this and got it out there on Amazon. So I would suggest picking a copy up of that. And so education is number one. The other one is to get on things like Google Alerts and put in whatever it is that you're interested in, so that you get posted. I get alerts from Google on carbon negative every day. So anything that's going on in the world that's where someone's trying to create some sort of carbon negative solution, I can tell you about it because I read about it every day. It's part of my standard reading. You can do the same thing about hemp innovation and this sort of thing, or whatever you want to. So you always have that information coming in. I'll give you an example. Just about a month ago, one of the articles that I got was talking about a company that I would never expect to be involved in trying to save the planet, but they are. Actually, about 5 or 6 of them that I put on one slide in one of my presentations. But a company called Unilever, right? They make Q-tips. They make 7,000 different products. They make Dove soap. They make 7,000 different products. And they came out publicly and they said over the next 2 years, they're going to put a label on each one of their products showing how much embodied carbon they have in their products. In other words, how much CO2 is released into the atmosphere from making a Dove bar or a Q-tip. So that's going to become a new standard in the world right now. Is people will know what the carbon footprint is, and the same sort of thing is going to happen. I mean, hemp is going to be one of the things that's going to help companies reduce their footprints. So they're going to be changing their packaging, etc. I talked to another company last week that is talking to Amazon, and they're talking to them about helping to replace their cardboard, right, with hemp pulp instead of tree pulp, right? Totally makes sense. Does Amazon use a little bit of cardboard? Oh yeah. So I think take a look at what you want to address in this hemp industry, and then put those search things into something like Google Alerts, so that you can see what's going on in that industry and find out what's going on, and that will keep you educated and get you to see who the leaders are in that area. And there are a lot of opportunities that are going to be coming up in the coming years. So you just have to pick your niche, evaluate whether or not you can make an impact, evaluate whether or not you can produce a material that's going to be competitive, like CNF is doing right now, and then go at it. But I mean, just going after anything and just choosing a market, etc., without the knowledge is going to be kind of like spinning your wheels. You're going to want to get a lot of knowledge, and those are 2 ways of increasing your education. And of course, if you want to help the hemp industry, buy stuff made out of hemp. Like this is hemp glue, right? I don't mind plugging companies. They're a great company. They make a great product. So, make the conscious effort to make stuff or to buy stuff. Vote with your money. Buy stuff that's made out of hemp. You'll be helping companies just like yourself as you become a burgeoning entrepreneur in this field, and you'll be able to help others like you and work with others like you to make this a reality.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
Ourselves,
a lot of people
I
mentioned.
just wanted to.
Oh, go ahead, David.
No, just go ahead. I'll go after you, Stephen. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to round it out and close the day. So go ahead.
No, I wanted each one of us to tell where would people find information about each of our companies. Our company, we're actually the three peacemakers. This event we're doing is for a nonprofit, but we have a for-profit company called unlimitedhemp.org. O-R-G. That is our website if you want to find out more information about us. We are the three peacemakers, and we do nonprofit projects like this, but we also helping indigenous communities for economics. That means that for Unlimited Hemp Company, we give about 1/3 of our profits to indigenous nations to be able to build houses, clean water, and other things to them. So if you want to learn more, you can go to our website, unlimitedhemp.org. So Bruce, where can people find information about what you're doing?
CarbonNegativeFiber.com talks about the materials we're developing that will be available in Q1. And also RenewSportsCars.com talks about the car, and there's several hundred articles and videos and this sort of thing you can find there. So CarbonNegativeFiber.com and RenewSportsCars.com.
Ashley?
And to find the book, it's The Emperor Wears No Clothes on Amazon.